Welcome to this explainer. Okay, whether you're totally cramming for finals or just looking to really nail down the basics, we're treating this like your ultimate high-yield exam prep bootcamp for intro stats. We're going to take all those intimidating formulas and dry theories and just break them down into super clear, highly testable concepts. Let's get right into it.
Here is a quick look at our agenda. We'll hit the aim and scope of statistics, populations versus samples, sampling methods, summarizing and visualizing data, calculating the arithmetic mean, and finally, inferencing and professional decisions.
Starting us off, Section 1, Aim and Scope of Statistics.
All right, picture this. You're sitting in your exam, and a question asks you to simply define statistics. Whatever you do, do not just write down numbers. The definition you absolutely want to lock in your memory is that statistics are aggregates of facts affected to a marked extent by a multiplicity of causes numerically expressed. Sounds fancy, right? But the crucial takeaway is that a single isolated figure, like, say, knowing a guy named Mr. X makes 10 grand a year, well, that's not statistics. It's just a random number, because it's isolated. You can't compare it to anything. True statistics require aggregates, meaning groups of figures that are influenced by multiple real-world factors.
And what's genuinely fascinating is just how massive the scope of this field is today. Back in the day, statistics was basically just the science of kings. It was used strictly for state administration and government records, stuff like tracking the population or figuring out who they could tax. But now, it's everywhere. We're talking business forecasting, massive investment policies, auditing and big data, and cutting-edge scientific and healthcare research. And the reason it's so widespread is actually pretty simple. The one thing all managers and leaders have in common is that they have to make huge decisions under uncertainty. Statistics gives them the exact mathematical tools to actually navigate that uncertainty.
Moving right along, Section 2, Populations versus Samples.
Okay, the key difference you literally have to know for your test is this. The population is the entire complete universe of data you're studying. So, if you're looking into voting fairness, your population is every single U.S. citizen. But let's be real, it's basically impossible and insanely expensive to survey every single American. And that, my friends, is exactly where the sample comes in. A sample is just a smaller subset of that giant population. It's the group you actually observe so you can make educated inferences about the whole. But here's the catch. You have to be super careful about how you pick that sample. Just imagine a substitute teacher wants to know how the whole class did on a recent test, right? So they just ask the 10 kids sitting right in the front row to shout out their scores. And based on that, the teacher concludes the whole class aced it. So what exactly is the huge problem here? The problem is sampling bias. It's a classic trap. Those front row students are a poorly chosen, completely non-representative sample. Let's face it, kids who sit in the very front are usually a bit more engaged and tend to score higher, so they absolutely do not represent the whole room. And here is a massive exam tip for you. Volunteers almost always skew your data. Think about a gym coach asking for volunteer freshmen to do cartwheels, just to find the school's average cartwheel ability. A sample made up only of kids who volunteer to do cartwheels is going to drastically skew your data, because anyone who can't do a cartwheel definitely isn't volunteering. Bottom line, your sample must accurately represent the whole population, or your inferences will just be completely wrong.
Which brings us to Section 3, Sampling Methods Explained.
So, how do we actually avoid that bias? We use probability sampling, which basically means units are chosen mathematically. First up is simple random sampling, or SRS. This means every single unit out there has an absolutely equal chance of being picked. Then you have stratified random sampling. This is where you divide the population into distinct groups first, like, say, day students versus night students, and then you sample randomly within those groups so everything stays proportional. Finally, there's systematic random sampling, where you just pick every nth case from a list. The best way to think about random sampling is like tasting a spoonful of soup to judge the whole pot. You definitely don't need to drink the entire pot to know if it needs more salt, right? Just as long as it's been well stirred, that single spoonful is totally representative.
Now, there are also some highly specialized methods out there, especially if you're looking at fields like accounting and auditing. Take stop or go sampling, for example, which is also known as sequential sampling. The whole point of this method is to prevent oversampling and save time. It's brilliant in its simplicity. You take an initial small sample, you examine the controls, and if you immediately reach your expected conclusion about error rates, you literally just stop. Done. But if the results are kind of inconclusive, then you go ahead and pull another sample. It is wildly efficient and saves auditors a massive amount of time. All right, Section 4, Summarizing and Visualizing Data.
Okay, so before we do any heavy math, we always need to organize our raw data. And tables, they are absolutely the perfect way to structure raw frequencies so we can spot patterns right off the bat. In this specific table, we're comparing the profits earned by companies across two totally different areas, Area A and Area B. Now, just looking at these raw numbers does give us a basic surface-level comparison, but to truly grasp the whole story, like the distribution and variation between these two areas, we really need to visualize it.
Enter the Lorenz curve. This is a highly testable graphic method you'll want to remember, originally devised by Max O. Lorenz. It's used to study dispersion and the exact degree of inequality in distributions, usually things like income, wealth, or, like we're looking at here, profits. Here's how it works. You plot the cumulative percentage of the items, like the companies, on the x-axis. Then you plot the cumulative percentage of the variable you're measuring, like profits, on the y-axis. Now that perfectly straight diagonal line right down the middle, that represents pure, perfect equality. So the further a curve bows away from that straight line, the greater the inequality. Looking at this, curve B is bowing way further out from the diagonal than curve A. That tells us instantly that Area B has a much greater inequality in how profits are distributed among its companies. Make sure you know how to read that for the exam.
Next up, Section 5, Calculating the Arithmetic Mean.
Okay, deep breath. Do not let the Greek letters and scary-looking formulas on your exam intimidate you. Calculating the sample mean, which is denoted as x bar, is literally just a simple step-by-step process. Step 1. You find the total sum of all your observed values. We call that sigma x. Step 2. You just count the total number of items in your sample, which is called n. And step 3, you simply divide that total sum by the number of items. Boom, you have your mean.
But you know how exams are. They absolutely love to throw curveballs. What happens if you do all that work, calculate the mean, and then suddenly realize one of the data points was copied down wrong? Let's walk through it. Say you have 18 observations, and you calculated a mean of 7. Well, working backwards, that means your total sum was 18 times 7, which gives you 126. But wait, you double-check your notes and realize a figure of 12 was accidentally written down as 21. Oh no, do you have to start all over from scratch? Absolutely not. All you do is take your incorrect sum of 126, deduct the wrong item, which is that 21, and then just add the correct item, the 12. So, 126 minus 21 plus 12 gives you a fresh, fully corrected sum of 117.
Now you just take that corrected sum of 117, divide it by your original 18 observations, and you get 6.5. Locking in that calculation, 6.5 becomes the precise, accurate new center point of that sample set. It's such a simple, elegant fix, and knowing this trick will save you huge amounts of time and stress on a test.
Finally, Section 6. Inferencing and professional decisions. When you think about it, everything we've talked about today, picking an unbiased sample, charting it out on a Lorenz curve, fixing the mean, it all leads directly to this, inferential statistics. This is the whole reason we do the math. Inferential statistics allow researchers to take information from a tiny sample and convert it into highly intelligent, mathematically reliable guesses about a giant population. The real question in estimation isn't whether our guess is 100% flawlessly correct. It's about figuring out just how close it is to the true value so we can actually confidently act on it. And honestly, that is exactly what professionals do in the real world every single day. Whether it's the National Election Commission evaluating voting procedures based on a small sample of citizens, or a massive accounting firm auditing big data transactions, or even a marketing manager trying to predict the success of a new campaign. They are all forced to make big decisions under conditions of uncertainty. Statistical methods are these incredibly indispensable tools that let us replace pure, blind guesswork with calculated, confident action. So as you head in to completely ace your introductory exam, I really want to leave you with this one final thought. Statistics isn't just some annoying math hurdle you have to clear to get your degree. It is literally a powerful lens for viewing reality. When you finally step out of the classroom and into your actual profession, how will you use these exact tools, the samples, the means, and the inferences, to solve the complex, uncertain problems that are waiting for you in your future career? Good luck on your test, study hard, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.